Won't you take me back to Tennessee?
The award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest info about hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. This episode is brought to you by GSM Outdoors, whose vision is to preserve the sportsman's legacy, fuel innovation, and enable the next generation of outdoor enthusiasts. Think outside. That's where you'll find us. Now, make welcome your host, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. Thanks for tuning in. We have an awesome show lined up for you today. And today we're going to be talking with Dan and Janelle about bears, Don.
Yes, of all things.
We lined up a little short, interview after the commission meeting. And
it was hot on the agenda, so we thought, well, we'll take advantage of this and talk to them personally.
So it's a little bit different setup, but I hope you enjoy this interview.
Well, we're here with Dan, Gibbs, and Janelle Musser on the tail end of the most recent commission meeting, and a great conversation in the meeting and great presentations. And I thought, well, it'd be great just to sit down with you guys and share this with the public and talk bears today. And Dan, let's start with you. You've been with the agency for quite a while now, and lived and worked in the bear world for a long time. But give us a little bit of bear history, a little bit of overview of bears in Tennessee, and we'll dive into more.
Okay, I think one of the fun facts about bears a lot of people don't realize is that Tennessee historically, the entire state had bears from Memphis to Mountain City up into Lake County. The whole state was bear country, and what's neat about that is that the bears are recolonizing that former range. They're moving back into these areas they used to inhabit on their own without us having to help them out by relocation and things like that. It's just a natural expansion, and it's pretty ironic considering in the late 60s we were down just a few remnant populations in East Tennessee, and we actually closed hunting in 1970, 1973 to try to kind of figure out what was going to happen and how the agencies could work together. Other states, North Carolina and Georgia, got involved as well. They were having the same issues, and just formed this coalition to try to set a plan to see bears recover in the southeast, and it worked, and it's tremendous success in conservation. And that group still meets twice a year 50 years later. They're still getting together to develop and work on bear management issues.
It's a never-ending job.
Never-ending job.
And I think too, just people don't realize habitat-wise too that bears aren't just a mountain species. They live in a lot of different places. They're in Louisiana, they're in Mexico, Florida. Black bears, Florida. So black bears are really they can use a lot of different habitats. It's not just mountains. And some of the areas of West Tennessee are super productive ecosystems for them. They would have plenty of food as they go back there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool to think. I mean, I can't wait to see bears all across the state. One of these days, I'm sure we will. But just to think, the last elk was killed in Obion County. We had elk, we had bear, things all across the state that people don't see now, but they were here at one time.
Janelle says people associate bears with mountains, but wetlands, hardwood bottoms and wetlands and coastal wetlands hold a tremendous number of bears, and they're excellent habitat for bears.
Well, you mentioned estimated 6,000 bears roughly in the state right now. We're seeing an average, or the 5-year average was around 650 bears that we harvest year to year, but that harvest fluctuates. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it fluctuates a lot. Last year we had a record harvest of 813, and right now, as of today, we're just under 400, which is like a 45% decline. It's kind of what it's projected out to be. But each year after a record harvest, we see a pretty good drop, anywhere from 29 to 40% the following year. Sometimes it's due to we harvested a lot of bears that were available. Now they're not as available because they're not as close to people, but this year it's more of a hard mass availability. We had a tremendous mass crop, probably one of the best I've seen in my career, and it seems to be across the state. So a lot of deer numbers are down as well, but it's just something we see. Those populations fluctuate from year to year, and that's why we look at trends, right? 5-year trends. 10 years ago, that average was about 430 bears a year, and now we're at 650. And some of that's due to, and most of it's actually due to us increasing hunting opportunity in areas that were previously closed, right? We hunt 37 counties now, where when I started we were hunting maybe 8 to 10. So a lot of that increase is due to hunting on plateau especially. And so those populations are still growing on the plateau, but we're seeing kind of a stabilization in other parts of the historical range, which is not a bad thing. At some point we kind of say, hey, this level is kind of where we want it to be, but those conflicts keep going up, right? So when you're stabilizing populations, but your conflicts keep going up, something's going on. Yeah. You got to figure out what's driving that.
Exactly. But like you said, there's conflict with the rising bear population, and more people, tourists, and things like that. Conflicts happen, and calls go up, right, Janelle? So tell us a bit about what we're seeing there with the cost of the office and all the stuff that's just going on. Like I say, with Gatlinburg too, we see a lot there. That's where the hot areas, I guess you could say, because there's more people there and things like that.
Well, and it's just like harvest and other things where there's so many factors that go into it, and we see that too with these conflict calls. And so 2024 we had our highest call volume to the agency, about over 1,700 calls, and Gatlinburg alone saw just over 700 of those.
Oh, okay.
But that is, now we're back down to kind of normal again this year, where we're back at like around 1,200 calls. And last year we really think it was because of some of the weather. It was so dry and so hot. They were all down low to get water, be in and around people. So there's things change, things fluctuate with those.
Maybe the mass crop.
Also that too, yeah.
For food, yeah.
Yeah, so we saw this fall, man, when those acorns hit, they were out of there. They were out in the woods. They weren't around people as much, or they were sitting in people's yards eating acorns and they wouldn't leave, So you get that side of things too. But yeah, as you get more people, not only do you get more people, you get more attractants, and you get more cameras on the landscape. With social media now, everybody can talk about these things.
They want to go viral with it?
Yeah.
Share a video or something?
Yeah, but I think too, when you're just talking about it and your neighbor's talking about it, right? It gives you this idea that, oh my gosh, bears are everywhere, when they really might not be. It could be one bear that's moving through an area and it's generating a lot of calls or generating a lot of publicity. And that gives people this idea that there's 100 of them running around, and it's really just one bear in the area.
Yeah.
We hear that a lot. We're covered up in bears, and I just unless it's around the Smoky Mountains, you don't really know what covered up with bears is. It's all relative to what you're used to, right? But the human population growth is a serious issue with bears, not only in Tennessee but in the Southeast, because we continue to build houses, we continue to build shopping centers, we continue to build all these things that is getting into their habitat, which is the whole state, which we've just talked about.
Yep.
So something has to give, and you just keep putting more and more people closer to these animals. And when you hear about the projections for growth in Tennessee over the next 20, 30, 75 years, it's crazy some of the numbers you're hearing. You're talking about a state going from up to doubling their population in a 75-year time frame. And so the things that we do now to get ahead of that will help future generations. None of us will be here for that, but we can help the future generations, and for bears as well, to plan and be ready, because it's coming.
Yeah.
And it is certainly, it's about people. It's not about bears.
Yeah.
And it's not just those houses and everything. It's the attractants that come with it. It's that there's more garbage in those places. There's more bird feeders. There's people feeding feral cats outside. It's now deer feeders on the landscape. People can put those. People put those in their neighborhoods. Especially these subdivisions that people have. 2 to 5 acre lots in there. They put out a deer feeder. They're going to have a bear in their backyard. It's really not a deer feeder. It's a wildlife feeder.
Yeah.
And so, not only are you adding these people, but and taking away some habitat, then you're adding that much more of those easy, high-calorie foods that bear's sense of smell takes them right to it as well. So it's kind of a multifaceted thing there.
Yeah. It's no longer just the bag of dog food or leaving the dog food out or something, or
And
not
we
cleaning
need-
the grill. It's a lot of things.
And we
Yeah.
didn't get into it today, but another aspect of this is that bears, if you look at the old literature back when I was in college, And even when Janelle was in college, it would say the average litter size for a bear is 2 cubs every other year, is what you're going to typically see. Now, 4 cubs for a bear and 4 cubs is really not that uncommon, and 3 is really pretty common in some areas. And that's a result of all the anthropogenic food sources, the stuff that we provide that's giving them ability to raise these cubs. But now you got 4 cubs to feed. Are you going to forage for acorns, or are you going to go to the dumpsters?
Easy, yeah.
And then you teach those cubs that behavior, and that's what they do. And so we literally have generations of bears that's what they do, is they live in town and they eat garbage. And that's on us.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that with, Gatlinburg really revamping their dumpsters, which was a fantastic initiative that they did. What's really pretty interesting, though, is a lot of bears did just up and leave Gatlinburg. Like, I can't get into this free food source I've been eating out of.
Yeah.
So they left. But then those other ones that had been in it for years and were so used to people, they have kind of upped what they're doing and breaking into cars and stuff like that. And now we have to come in and address those animals. But as younger bears move in and around Gatlinburg, they can't get that garbage and they can't learn that bad behavior. So over time, it will really pay off. But some of these other cities, they're now in the position that Gatlinburg was 30 years ago. And now we have all these awesome products that didn't exist 30 years ago, that they could implement bear-resistant trash cans, bear-resistant dumpsters in their cities, in their counties.
Get on the front of it. Yeah.
Get on the front of it so that they're not trying to backtrack in a way that, like I said, Gatlinburg did an awesome thing, and we're really happy that they did that, and we're seeing so much change there. But if that would have existed 30 years ago, it wouldn't be at that situation where we have bears breaking into cars and stuff like that.
You've got to get ahead of it. Small little things on the front end can save you years of heartache and work and money on the backside.
Well, talk a little bit about the site visits.
You can talk to somebody on the phone, but it's really hard to truly understand what they're experiencing, what their property looks like, seeing you face to face, that you're a person, you care, not just about the bear, but about them too. A lot of times if people lose things like chickens or goats, that's not just a livestock animal to them. It usually is a part of their family. They might ultimately end up using it as livestock, but they care for that animal and they put a lot of time and money into it. A lot of
money, yeah.
Yeah, so when they lose that to something like a bear and they just don't know what to do. So being able to go out there and say, look, you could put up an electric fence and this is how you could do it. And it really wouldn't cost you that much money because you already have an existing fence, or those kind of things really helps. And historically, that in-person response was come and get the bear. And we did that. And it doesn't work. If it did work, we wouldn't have bear conflicts anymore because we moved so many bears. That's what we see with a lot of these landowners. They want the bear problem to stop happening. They want the issue they're having to stop. And they think moving it will be the answer. But really what I tell them is nowadays with where people are too, what you're really asking is take this bear that I don't want and give it to somebody else. Yeah. That's really what it is. Because there's nowhere that there's not someone that is living or recreating in really the whole country pretty much at this point, You
don't get the whole picture on the phone because if the bear's getting in trash, and they call you about trash, you say, well, you can secure your trash, here's how to do it. They don't realize that the bear's also seeing their bird feeders or their dog food that's outside or some other issues. So when you get out there, you're able to take in the whole picture. And it's almost always multiple attractants. It's never just one thing. So it gives you that chance to identify and talk them through the whole plan, right? Because you don't want to keep them out of the trash, then have them call you back 6 weeks later, go, well, now they're in my bird feed or they're in the cat food, whatever. But the other thing is, especially when it comes to livestock damage, is more often than not, they perceive that a bear has done something, and many times it isn't a bear. It's usually maybe coyotes or even dogs, feral dogs, or even neighborhood dogs. We see that a lot. And what's important there is it gives us the chance not necessarily to save the bear's reputation, so to speak, but help them understand that, hey, you got a problem with feral dogs in here, and here's what you can do to address that. Because at the end of the day, we don't want them to have loss, right? Mm-hmm. So we can help them even with other stuff and give them some ideas, but we have to go out there, and you just can't take their word that, oh, a bear killed my goat. We have to go out there and kind of confirm that and figure out what's going on before we can help them. And sometimes it is a bear, and they will do that. And if it is, then we can help them with some things to keep that from happening again. So,
and you're a small team, so these site visits, I mean, you guys are doing them. David's doing them, David Sexton, and then sometimes an officer's going out. But it's not a huge team of people to take all these calls and go visit all these homes. But you're doing the best you can, right?
But the key is, if you do that site visit, that's usually the only time you're out there, versus having multiple phone calls and constantly. If you can get out there on that first visit and develop that relationship with them, show some empathy, and they'll want to and educate them. Like, hey, if we move this bear, there's 80% chance it's going to be dead in 4 months. They don't want that. Oh, well, what else can we do then? But you have to be there and talk to them face to face to develop that. You can't do that over the phone. You just can't do it.
Yeah, and the wildlife officers are a huge help. And the other thing too that it gives you the chance to do is, if you're out there in an area, you can go visit the neighbors already, or they spread word of mouth like, hey, TWRA came out here and they actually were really helpful and told me to do X, Y, and Z, maybe even gave me a retrofit kit for my trash can. And they gave me one for you too, because I told them it's in your trash also. So it gives you a chance to really get to more people. Whereas if you're just relying on those people to call you, we may never get that call from that person, because they may work odd hours, or they're just someone that doesn't like to call a state agency. Right. Yeah. But if we're out there, we can get ahead of it. We can talk to them.
We see that a lot. Hey, can I get that for my neighbor? Can I get one for my mother? And the other thing too that Janelle and I've come to realize, and it's important, is that the most of these people calling about these bear conflicts are not what we would call TWRA customers. They're not our constituents. They're not our licensed buyers. They're not our boat registration people. So for many of these people, this is their very first interaction with our agency. And we want it to be positive. Yeah. We want to be able to help these people and it to be a good experience. And so we had to keep that in mind too. You got to walk them through it.
Well, one cool slide that you threw up on the screen was conflict accelerants. And I wrote down here 5 of those 6 were things that humans offer the bear and cause that issue. Can you talk through those real quick? Yeah.
The accelerants are those things that, despite site visits and despite hunting opportunity and despite, other types, whether it's trying to capture a bear, whatever, you still get these increases in calls in areas. And it's things we've talked about. One, it's just the number of people moving into the state. More people, more potential for conflicts. Janelle's slide of Florida did a real good job showing that. They have the same number, or actually fewer bears, but they have a lot more conflicts, and they have 3 times the number of people we have with fewer bears. Then all the associated housing and infrastructure that goes along with that gets into, bringing people close to the bears with the trash, the pets, all of that stuff. Then tourism. When you talk about bears, people typically think of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and the surrounding area. But tourism is growing all over East Tennessee, Tri-Cities, the Cumberland Plateau, and all these areas have bears, and they have good healthy populations of bears. And we're seeing more and more people, tourists, being close to bears because folks aren't planning when they're in their business model. They're not planning for bears. They're not thinking about bears. And then you get into hobby farming, chickens, goats. Bears like chicken. They're like they're like us. They really like chicken. But
they also like the chicken feed.
Yeah, they also like chicken feed. And it's a great point. Typically, it starts with the chicken feed, right? Oh, there's chickens in there. And for a bear, chickens are easy. But investment of electric fence takes care of that. And then We mentioned recolonization is one of the accelerants. That's the bear aspect. And then lastly, baiting of deer will be legal next fall, and that is going to have an impact on bears in two different ways. They'll be attracted to bait stations, and there'll be people that will take bears illegally. We know that's going to happen. We have law enforcement officers that are very good at catching people at that, but it's going to happen, and they're going to check them in as bears that were illegally harvested. So we'll see an increase in harvest that we have to factor into all of our other hunting opportunity. We got to figure out, okay, how does that relate? What's the impact of that kind of stuff? And then conflicts. Deer hunters will have serious issues with bears eating their corn that they're putting out, but it's important that everybody understands when you put food out for wildlife, whether it's somebody putting it out for birds, turkeys, deer, raccoons, you're putting it out for anything that wants to eat it. And but the point is kind of like the chickens. If a hunter is using a feeder and he wants to keep bears out of it, he can do that, and it still be accessible to deer and not accessible to bears. And it's going to be through electric fencing, right? So they're purchasing some solar chargers and things like that. They can keep them out of it, but you got to plan ahead. You can't wait till
or
later.
Even trying soybean instead of corn.
Right.
It doesn't seem to be as attractive to bears.
Yes.
So, trying that, especially if you haven't been feeding corn and the bear's already there, doesn't seem to be as big of a draw, but deer still like it, and it's still pretty healthy for them too. So trying that. People in places, other states that have had baiting have had to end bears, deer baiting and bears. They've had to kind of work through some of this, and so there's lots of good designs online and some other food options that bears just, I won't say they'll never go after it, but they definitely don't seem as enticed as they do to corn.
So many issues with baiting and
One
attracting.
one decision affects so many other things, but those accelerants, the takeaway with that slide was that all of these things going on, it comes back to what people are doing. It's not really what bears are doing. The bears are reacting to what we put on the landscape for them, whether it be through trash or make it easy pickings to get to our chickens, or we have a multi-$1,000 apiary out there and we don't protect it with electric fence, and then bears really like honey and they like bees, so they destroy it. And it's like it's an insurance policy. It's like we buy homeowners insurance, we buy auto insurance, and we complain about it, but we buy it, right? Because it pays off in the end when we need it. And that's what we're talking about is people have to go get their insurance policy, which is in most cases electric fencing.
Put up electric fence or
bear resistant trash can.
Yeah. And I think, that you pointing out that they are related to people also comes back to kind of this terminology thing that we always talk about, which is it is not a problem bear. It is not a nuisance bear. It is a human-bear conflict. And really, the humans play the bigger role in that because these bears are here. And a lot of them, they've always been there, but maybe you didn't have a chicken coop, or you weren't putting out bird feeders, or you used to keep your garbage in your garage and now you put it outside. That bear's always been there. It's always been in the vicinity or walking by. And now you've put something out for it, it's going to take advantage of it. And so it really is, it's a human bear conflict, and it's not a bear problem. And we, as agencies across the country, have always focused on the bear and how do we fix that bear. And that really, it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. That's really what it comes down to. So increasing trapping, moving bears, hazing bears, increasing permits, increasing harvest. It hasn't changed the number of bears in garbage. And while harvest is very important for our population management, it hasn't changed the number of bears in and around people's houses, and it's not going to. So people need to change what they're doing if they want to change that.
The education needs to increase, and we're doing that. That's what we're doing here today, trying to get this message out, getting local buy-in from our government, different governments, different cities and counties to help with the trash and things like that.
get the media
Get the media involved. Yeah. So
to help not show just the bad stuff, not show stuff people shouldn't be doing with bears. Show some of the stuff places should be doing when it comes to bears.
Let's go viral with this.
Yes.
Educating people rather than that lady feeding the bear or
Yes.
things like
At the end
that.
of the day, it comes down to, and it's not just bears. Human beings are so predictable in this. It's like, well, that's important. I'm for that, but somebody else needs to do it. Right? Yeah. And, we can go down, Janelle and I can talk to city governments and city commissions and say, hey, this is really important. You should really think about this. Your constituents, it's important to your constituents. It is a public safety issue. People get hurt. And luckily we haven't had a fatality recently, but we've had people get hurt.
And invasions, home invasions and stuff.
Invasions. Yeah, there's a quality of life issue. I'm telling you, when you pick your trash up every day because bears got into it, it impacts you mentally. It impacts your quality of life. And that's the kind of stuff that local government leaders need to hear from, not from us, from their constituents, because that's the ones that vote for them. They're the ones that pay the taxes. They're funding that city's government. They should speak up and say, hey, this is what we want. We can tell them this is what you need, but they need to hear from those folks, this is what we want. And when that happens, then you start seeing that change. But until these city governments hear from these people, and I get it, nobody calls me and says they want this. Yeah. Till they start hearing from people, it's, we can't make them do anything. It has to be their decision. We can only guide and direct.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate you guys sitting down with me today. I think it's a lot of great information just to share. Tennessee is bear country.
Yeah, it is.
So
it's our new plate.
Yeah. So let's hold that up. You can see it on camera. Y'all hold.
And it highlights BearWise, which is the national education program. So people have questions, people don't know where to start if they have bears around their house, that kind of thing. That's where you go. BearWise.org.
This will be replacing our current bear license plate that we've had for over 20 years now.
Keep an eye out for it.
It's been approved. It's just a function of when it's available for purchase, which could be hopefully by the first of the year. We'll just see. Just keep your eye out for that. I'm sure it will be at the top of the row at the county courthouse when it comes out.
Yeah. So help us advertise for that if you're watching and listening out there, and be bear wise. I appreciate you guys sharing this information today, and I know the public does as well. And keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram. You can invest in Tennessee's wildlife future by purchasing a license at GoOutdoorsTennessee.com. That's GoOutdoorsTennessee.com.